Hello, beautiful beings, and welcome to the podcast episode of today. So today we are talking about how to stop selling yourself short and get what you are worth. Now, what I mean by how to stop selling yourself short is when we don't know what our value is or what is available for us outside of this thing that we're trying to negotiate, we often will sell ourselves short, or we think that we have to settle for something because we are not really clear on what our other options are. So this is getting really clear on what your options are with friendships, with romantic relationships, with business and career. These are huge ones, business and career. With the property market, with absolutely anything. We're talking about how to stop selling yourself short so you can really get what you are worth without kind of settling or begging, okay? And I'm going to go into something called BATNA, which I've heard a bit about more so in negotiating agreements within the business world, but you can apply BATNA to absolutely anything. So if you've heard of BATNA, then you've come to the right place because we're going to dig deeper into that. If you haven't, welcome. It's a fucking great concept. But before we get into that, we're going to do a little bit of a brain fact. And what I wanted to talk about was actually the idea of what happens when we inhale helium. Like, is it really bad for your brain? Why does our voice go really high? Like, what's happening? Is it something that we should be doing when you go to the party and inhale helium out of a balloon? Like, what's the go? Good or bad? Is it like damaging? What's happening? So first, let's talk about why your voice changes. And then I'm going to talk about the safety or the dangers of inhaling helium. Okay, so firstly, your voice box is kind of like the top part of your larynx, right? And at the top, there are two strands of tissue at the very top, okay? And these are your vocal cords. And your vocal cords kind of vibrate at a frequency when you talk. Now, in general, women have thinner, shorter, and tighter vocal cords than men. Therefore, they're in general going to have a higher pitched voice. I obviously don't have such thin, short, and tight vocal cords because I've got a significantly lower voice than... Well, I don't know, lower, but I've got a low voice. So, you know, there's a big range for men and women with their vocal cords. But our voices are also a mix of multiple frequencies, not just the one frequency. We've got a mix of multiple. We've got low, like medium or original, and high frequency. Now, when we inhale, when air passes through these vocal cords, based on kind of the weight of the air is what's going to determine how much these vocal cords vibrate or how much air gets passed through at any given time. And that is going to determine the vibration and therefore the sound of your voice with the different frequencies, okay? Helium, however, is a lot lighter than air. So due to this, helium moves through the vocal cords a lot faster than air does because it's so light. So because of that, sound waves move faster through the vocal cords, and that amplifies the high frequency of the different frequencies that we have within our voice, okay? So it's kind of like this idea of if you were to record your voice and then speed it up, it sounds like a mouse, like it's really high pitched. It's kind of that concept, okay? But if you were to inhale a gas like sulfur hexafluoride, which I had never really heard of until I started looking into this, and I saw like, what's that famous talk show host? Not Jimmy Kimmel. Anyway, a talk show host, they were doing a game where they were inhaling this sulfur hexafluoride, and it actually significantly lowers your voice. And it's like that warped recording, you know, when you watch those movies and someone's kidnapped someone and they're like a really low voice, kind of sounds like that. And this is... what's happening here is that it lowers your voice because this particular gas is 6 times heavier than air. So it makes the waves a whole lot slower, and then it amplifies the lower frequency as if you were to slow down your voice if you were listening to a recording. So that is why we're getting this effect in our voice. It's because it is directly affecting the air that's passing through the vocal cords, okay? So it's not some weird thing that happens in the brain that then affects your vocal cords. It is a direct effect on your vocal cords, okay? So that's that fun fact. But should we be inhaling helium just for the sake of inhaling helium? Like, what are the repercussions for as far as our brain is concerned? There are dangers in inhaling things that are not oxygen. And I'm going to go through like kind of low risk dangers and high risk dangers. So helium has no oxygen in it whatsoever. If you inhale from a balloon, if you empty your lungs and go and inhale from a balloon, you've got no oxygen there whatsoever. So you've now completely displaced oxygen from your lungs and you've displaced oxygen from your brain. And if you take a big enough inhale from that balloon, and you're only getting helium and no oxygen, then you can lose consciousness. You can get really, really dizzy. For some people, they like completely pass out. Some people can even have a seizure because they've taken such a big breath in. They've completely not allowed any oxygen in that breath in. And it's already caused, this dizziness. And then because of that, they're not able to get adequate oxygen in the next breath. And then they might faint for a short term, or sometimes they might even like have a seizure, okay? So that's not ideal. But for the most part, when people inhale from a balloon at a party, you don't often see these really terrible side effects because it's relatively controlled. I'm not saying go ahead and do it. There are definitely those risks, but those risks are kind of mitigated by the fact that, you're doing it from a balloon. However, if you are inhaling from a tank, I would tell people never do it. Absolutely never fucking inhale helium from a tank. I don't care if you've done it and you're like, I did it and it was fine. You shouldn't. And the reason for this is because the tank holds a lot more helium, right? And more pressure in it. So if you inhale from a tank, if it's too pressurized, it can actually cause an air embolism, which is like a bubble that gets trapped in a blood vessel within your lungs. And then this can burst and cause a hemorrhage in your lungs, which is fucking game over for your lungs, right? The air pressure of certain tanks can be so high that we don't realize. And when we inhale, it's like quite a strong shock of pressure. Not only is it a shock of pressure, it's not even oxygen, but it's actually the pressure that does the damage. It can actually rupture the little air sacs in your lungs, the alveoli or whatever they're called. And if it happens to enough of those little tiny, tiny sacs, then your lungs fill with blood and you essentially drown in your own blood, right? Because you can't get oxygen in because only blood's coming in. Rupturing those little tiny sacs is not fucking okay. And we never want to put ourselves at risk of rupturing those tiny sacs in our lungs because there is no resuscitation. You cannot resuscitate somebody who has ruptured those little sacs and is drowning in their own blood. So it's fucking game over. Don't want to scare you all. So yes. And then in that case, there have been actually reported cases of death, people that have been inhaling from a tank and have died, but it's not necessarily the helium that has caused their death. It is more so the pressure in inhaling it. So if you've done it before, I'm glad you got away with it without any major injuries, but don't ever do it again. It's just not worth the risk. It could cause major damage to your lungs, if not death. Good times. So yeah, we don't love that. Now let's get straight into the topic of today's episode because we are talking about BATNA. We're talking about how to get yourself in a position of negotiating power for everything in your life. You are going to learn how to negotiate better for literally everything in your life. You are now going to feel empowered, okay? And I honestly think that that's the difference between happiness and frustration in your life. When we feel like we are in power, in control of where our life is headed, like we have choices, like we are not stuck, then we feel a lot happier because we have freedom, okay? So let's talk about this thing that applies to negotiating strategies that I've banged on about for long enough called BATNA. So what is it? BATNA stands for Best Alternative to a Negotiated Agreement. Okay? So this can be applied to anything. It's basically an alternative plan, kind of like a plan B, but not in the sense that it's like a bad, like lesser than option, but it's like, I've got this here, right? This is here. So if I'm trying to negotiate something with you, there's only so much wiggle room that I'm willing to give because my alternative is actually quite high. The standard of my alternative is pretty high. This best alternative to this negotiated agreement. I'm trying to negotiate an agreement, but if my alternative is the standard's pretty high, then there's less wiggle room, less room for me to be manipulated, less room for my arm to get twisted to agreeing to this thing if it doesn't work in my favor, because I can easily walk away because the second best option is actually pretty fucking good. Okay. Now, I talk about this a lot when it comes to dating and your single life. If you feel like you cannot be alone, you hate being alone, you think that being in a relationship is a kind of status symbol, if you think that part of your identity has to come with the fact that you are engaged or you are married or you are in a relationship and being single is a bad thing, then you're not going to put in the effort to really allow your single life to flourish, or not even your single life, but your life as a single individual to flourish, right? And therefore, you're going to put all your eggs in one basket and you're really going to be focusing on, I need a partner, I need a partner. Beggars can't be choosers. If you've got that mentality that I need a partner at any cost, then you're going to accept a partner at any cost, and it will cost you a fucking lot because you won't have your feelers properly out there to be like, unhealthy, I've been down this road before, I can see that red flag coming a mile away. You're kind of going to be like, oh my God, okay, yep, I want to get into a relationship. And we see it all the time. We either see it in ourselves or we see it in our friends. We're like, oh, why are you fucking again, you're dating the same kind of person? But it's because this person can't fathom being single. They hate it, right? They hate being alone, or they hate being as in not in a relationship. So this is exactly what I talk about. If you can build up your single life to a place where you're like, I have my freedoms, I've got a job that I'm really comfortable with, so I'm independent, I pay for myself, I pay my bills, my fucking bills are paid, I, go on my own holidays, or I do this, I do that, I love my spare time, my social circle's elite, I love it, I would love a partner, but my single life is really good to the extent that when I get into a relationship, I'm actually going to have moments of mourning this life because it's been so good to me, because I have I've watered it and watered it and watered it, and now I'm reaping the benefits, and it's a really good life. That's your fucking BATNA. That's your best alternative to a negotiated agreement. You then walk into dating and your standards are so fucking high. Someone comes in and they're trying to control you. You're like, cunt. Can't. I pay my own bills. I run my own life. I have my own responsibilities. I know how to fucking, enjoy myself. I have a social life. I'm in control. I have my good habits. I've got everything. And you're telling me what to do. You're telling me that I can't wear that when I go out. Goodbye. Au revoir. Bon fucking voyage. On your merry way, right? Because we're like, I don't need that. I don't need it, because the alternative is this really good life. So that's a prime example, a prime example. Now, so basically, in a nutshell, we're talking about the most favorable option available if you can't reach an agreement in any negotiation. And when we talk about negotiation, I'm talking about obviously romantically, or will I enter this relationship? Will I enter this job? Will I enter this contract, etc. Okay. So the benefits are obviously going to be that you're not going to settle for less than what you're wanting to agree upon. And you're happy not settling for less because you know that you can walk away if an agreement is not made. It's not about someone calling your bluff and being like, fuck, they called my bluff and now I actually can't. No, it's being like genuinely, these are the things that I want out of this. And if they can't meet you there, you're still able to compromise, but you're saying I'm able to compromise to this point and then no further, right? And if they say, well, I need you to compromise further, that's your walk away point. And you can walk away because you're like, the alternative is now better than what you're offering me. Okay. It basically provides you with a really good benchmark for looking at new deals or new opportunities or offers in your life. You will have to work harder in a sense to create this benchmark, because you don't want to be sitting here hoping that something good will come your way while sitting in an unhappy life. So it does cause you to work harder, but it also allows for better options to come your way in your life. And then it allows you to walk away from unpleasant and unfavorable living conditions that don't work for you, like unhealthy relationships, unhealthy friendships. It also makes negotiating so much easier for you, because your wiggle room doesn't have to be that big. You're very clear on where you're willing to wiggle, negotiate, compromise, and where you are not. And those non-negotiables can be very, very, very stable because you are already providing that for yourself, or because you have that alternative option accessible for you if you need it. Okay. So I'm going to give you a bunch of examples, but basically I want you to think, when you have everything to lose, the wiggle room, the negotiation, the space to negotiate and compromise is very, very big, okay? This idea of beggars can't be choosers, you get what you're given, that kind of thing. But if I have, not much to lose, then I don't have to negotiate that hard. If my single life is pretty good, then I'm not going to accept some dud in my life just because I need to be in a relationship. And that's kind of what's happening with women across the board around the world. They're kind of like, I'm now financially independent. I've got my own fucking place. I pay, I support myself. I even got savings. I've this, I've that. Why would I then settle for someone who makes me clean for them, cook for them, and provide for 50%? Like, why would I do that? And then people wonder why women aren't, quote unquote, settling, past their 30s. I wonder why. It's because the fucking BATNA. That's why. Why is it important? Leverage. So the better your BATNA, the stronger your negotiating power. You've got leverage. Clarity. If the deal that's on the table isn't as good as your BATNA, you're just confident in leaving the offer on the table and walking away. You're not even trying to they'll come chasing. No, it's not about trying to manipulate the other person. You're like, I've seen what you have to offer. I know what I have as an alternative. No, thank you very much. You walk away. There is no guessing. There is no, did I make a mistake? No, you have a lot of clarity. And protection. It stops you from making bad and unhealthy decisions out of fear, or worse, out of pressure, okay? If you are not happy with your alternative agreement or your alternative option, then you might feel pressured to make this decision in your life. If you're not happy with your life and everyone's like, you need to settle, you might feel pressured to settle. Same with a job, same with whatever. So now let's talk about how this kind of falls into different life scenarios. Example one is job negotiations, okay? You are offered a salary, for example, that is lower than what you had hoped for. You're going for a job or you're going for a promotion within your company. You've done all the rounds, you've done everything. You had an idea of what kind of salary you wanted. You go in there and they offer you the job, but the salary is lower. You want a higher salary. You've told them what you want, but they're saying, no, this is what we're going to offer you. We know you want this, we're going to offer you lower than that. So your BATNA is going to be a different offer that pays more. Like when you interviewed for that promotion, have you also thought, well, while I'm at it, why don't I warm up my interviewing skills and just cast the net wide and just go to a bunch of interviews? Just warm up, go to a bunch of interviews and see what's out there. Sometimes we're so tunnel visioned on, I need to get this promotion at this place, that we forget that our skills are pretty fucking transferable a lot of the time. And if these cunts don't want to promote me, or if they don't want to promote me for what I'm actually worth, that's perfectly fine. But I'm also entitled to kind of cast the net and see what else is available for me. I don't have to sit here like a fucking sitting duck being like, and just take what I'm given. So in this scenario, you would have gone to a bunch of other job interviews, probably gotten another offer, and then you're like, if they don't come through with this, I have this other offer sitting on the table at another company. I've got options, right? So I don't have to accept this, or the only option is to just stay in the role that I'm in, which is not what I wanted. Another option could be, I do want to stay in my job comfortably. Why would I take on all these responsibilities if you're only giving me this measly pay rise? It's kind of this idea of like, you climbed the ranks and this and that, and they're putting so much on your plate, but they're giving you fuck all financial benefits for it to be worth it. So your BATNA could be, there's no way in hell I'm going to lose my peace of mind for that measly promotion. So if you're not going to pay me X amount more, I'm going to stay in my own job. And they want you for that job. So it's up to them now to wiggle or not. That's another potential BATNA. Or you could go freelance and make a decent income doing what you do freelance, if that's an option for your career. But you have to know what that BATNA is. You can't go in and then you're on the negotiating table without knowing what your options are. You could be someone who's always wanted to go independent. You've got potential clients that you could already start working with. It's kind of the push you needed. You've got all the resources available for you. You've got a bit of a net, like a safety net of money that you could fall back on. And then you think, all right, this is it. If they don't give me the X amount promotion that I want, that is my calling to fucking quit and start my own thing. That could be your BATNA, okay? But you have to know what your BATNA is. And basically then you're in a really strong position to walk away. You can say, this is what I want. And they're like, no, we're not willing to give you this. We're going to give you this. And you say, well, I will leave it then. Thank you so much for the offer. Goodbye. And then if they do have the money, they're going to offer it to you. And then you can be like, well, that's exactly what I wanted. I'll take it. And if they don't, then there's your answer. You don't have to fuck around. Example 2 is relationships, which I kind of already touched on quite a bit. But basically, if you're in a relationship that feels one-sided, or if you've just started dating someone and you're like, I'm not really loving these traits, these character traits, or where they're heading with their kind of values and morals with dating versus where mine are at, you ask for change, but your partner is not willing to meet you halfway. Or what I say now, guys, because I'm fucking heavily pregnant as I'm recording this. By the time you listen to this, I would have birthed the children. But I am obviously the algorithm, I'm looking at like baby shit and whatever on TikTok and Instagram. But because of this, the amount of women that are in situations where they've birthed a child and they get nothing from their husband. And I don't even want to call it help, because it's not help. It's the husband and the father being a father. It's like they're just not doing their job as a father. I hate the idea of saying, oh, they're really helpful. Who are they helping? Themselves? It's their fucking child, right? They're not helping you. They're helping. Anyway, whatever. That's a whole nother episode. And I always look at this and I think, imagine being in that position, but also feeling like you can't leave now. Like, imagine being with this person, you've got a newborn, and your husband isn't willing to participate in parenting, in his role in parenting, in the housework. And then these women are getting on the camera and talking and complaining and saying, oh my God, my husband, there's my husband, that, and they're at that point where they're just publicly willing to just, open up about how terrible their partner is because they've just had it up to here, So I look at that and I'm like, God, they don't have a BATNA. Or maybe it's gotten too late. Now they have a kid and they feel like they can't walk away. Do you know, or where they've lost their financial independence and they don't need to be in this relationship. Like it's fucking terrifying. Anyway, so this idea that you ask for change, whether it's because you have a kid and your partner's not pulling their weight, whether it's because you find that your partner's too possessive and aggressive and you're like, this needs to change if we're going to have a future in our relationship, but your partner's not willing to meet you halfway. A lot of people say, well, I tried to make them change and they won't. Okay. What does that mean for you? Does that mean, well, now I have to put up with this for the rest of my life? I asked for change, but they didn't change, then I'm stuck with them forever. So too bad, so sad. Or do you have a good BATNA? And your BATNA could be a really fulfilling single life. That might not be possible right now because you have I don't know, depending on your situation, but that could be an option. If you have a partner that is not willing to meet you in the middle, could you just walk away? Because you're like, I know what it was like when I was single and I had a really good time and I have a really good job and I have a great career and I pay my own way. I pay 50% of this household anyway, so I can fuck off and do it on my own. So that's a big one. That to me has always been my BATNA. My BATNA in relationships, especially, I've never had to exercise this BATNA because by the time I've really built up my good single life that I was thrilled with, that's when I met Tyrone, and we've had a very healthy relationship. So I've never needed to exercise that. But my BATNA has always been, I love my single life. So the only reason I'm in this relationship with Tyrone is because it is more enriching being with him and I'm in love with him and it's amazing than needing to exercise that best alternative to this negotiated agreement, right? But it's there. And if things started to go south with my relationship, and of course I'd try to fix it first. I would do everything to remedy it, to mend it. We'd put in the effort. But if there was no meeting me halfway, if there was no willingness to fix it from my partner's end, then my partner's very fucking good. Very fucking good, because I know the life I can provide for myself, okay? I know the financial independence I have. I know that all these things, they stack up quite nicely. I can exercise that if I need to, okay? Your BATNA might also be, you might not have, for example, the financial means right now, but you might have a really good supportive network and you think all I need is a month to get me back on my feet, or 2 months, and my parents will take me in, or my best friend will take me in, or whatever. I know that if things get really bad here, I can walk away and I have the support that I need. That's another potential, okay? So you've got to look at what your BATNA is in relationships. The next one is something like housing and rental. Example 3, housing and rental. So this is not letting yourself get too emotional about something and spending more than you would like. If you put all your eggs in one basket in this rental market, and listen, when let's use Sydney, Australia as an example, because the rental market is fucked here, and like the prices are a joke. And anyway, whatever. If you live here, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And I think it's across Australia, but Sydney is just on that next level of psychosis when it comes to like the money that people pay for rent. It's so whatever. And sometimes we will get too emotionally invested in what we're like, but this is the perfect place. And then you think, okay, now I have to spend all that money. It's now out of my budget. And now I've looked at my budget, but now I'm going to extend that budget and I'm going to... No. We need to think like, okay, what is the best alternative? I'm going to stick to my guns and this is what I'm willing to pay, whether it's rent or whether I'm buying a property, whether I'm going to an auction or whether I'm renting a place. I need to stick to my guns because I need to think what is the best alternative. And sometimes the best alternative would be, you know, let's say we're talking about buying, to put off buying for another 6 months, because if I then go up another X amount of money, then it's also going to negatively impact my life in all these other areas. So I have to know what is the best alternative so I'm not putting myself in a position where I'm so financially vulnerable, okay? Like where's that sweet spot of I'm willing to go to here but no further. And what helps you go to here but no further is to look at what are my alternatives. Okay, if I don't get this place, I could rent here instead of buying this place for 6 months and then maybe something else would come up. Or why don't I try a completely different suburb? At least even just go and inspect. So that way I've opened my eyes and thought, look, I'd never live in that suburb. And then I go and inspect a few places and say, okay, well, I thought I'd never live here, but that's a really beautiful walk. That's a really nice cafe. I'd actually see myself being here. It's actually not the end of the world. The rent is a bit cheaper here. I could afford it. I could actually live here. It's possible for me. It's possible. So then you go there, you apply, instead of thinking, should I offer more money? I don't even think that's illegal, but anyway, like all these things, instead of thinking, no, that's the limit. That's the limit, and I've got alternative options for me. Now, the next one is negotiating like a partnership with someone. So example 4 is like business partnerships. So when you negotiate contracts or a partnership or anything to do with business or your career or work, you want to always know what the other alternatives are. If you think I'm starting a business with my friend, and that's all you've thought about. And so you go in and you have the conversation and they kind of hijack the whole thing, and you haven't planned in your head, if I don't get exactly what I need out of this, then I can't follow through with this business with my friend, no matter how much I love them. Then you might end up being like, oh, yeah, okay, and accepting really bad terms. And not because your friend's an asshole or a dickhead, but maybe because your friend's also super excited and they've just thrown down what they want and what they want out of it. So you've got to be like, I would love to start this thing with this person. It doesn't even have to be a friend. I'd love to start this partnership. I'd love to start this, collaboration or contract. But in doing so, I need all these things. Like, that's one thing I've massively learned in my life is contract negotiations. Guys, if there's one thing that I never knew that I would become relatively good at, is negotiating contracts. I have gotten to a point now where I'm so confident with reading through a contract and pulling that fucking thing apart and being like, that doesn't work for me, that doesn't work for me, that doesn't work for me. You'll be amazed at how many contracts I've gone through when it comes to like everything that I do, books and whatever, where I've had to be like, this clause, and this clause, can we remove it? And they'll come back saying, no, we don't want to remove it. And I'll say, well, those 3 clauses that I've pointed out are completely one-sided. Like, it is not reciprocal. It only locks me in and suffocates me, but it doesn't do the same for you. There's no reciprocal offer or benefit on my end. And if these things don't, like, I'm not asking for the world, I'm just asking for the non-reciprocal things to be removed. If that can't be removed, we can't move forward. And I'll sit with that. And so far, every time they've come forward saying, okay, we'll remove them. Because I think they know that I must have a good BATNA because of how comfortable I am with how I negotiate. I say, bang, 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 remove it. No, hello, hi, exclamation marks all through my email. Remove exclamation marks in your emails, by the way. I think when you have a really good BATNA, you're able to be also very comfortable with what you negotiate. And then you could be like, even when I do negotiate, I'll be like, these are my non-negotiables. Is there wiggle room here? Can we discuss this? So then they already know. There's no, like, I'm not bluffing. I'm not fucking around. I'm not wasting anyone's time. I'm just kind of saying, this has to change no matter what, or we're not proceeding with the contract. These things I would like changed, but where do you sit with this? We can talk, and then those are the things that I'm flexible on, and then we can maybe add 1 or 2 things here in this contract, okay? Now, the reason I'm like this is because, like many people, I'm sure so many listeners as well, I've been burnt, and we know what it's like, and then you think, okay, how am I going to proceed? Because I know what that's like, and that didn't work out for me, and I didn't have a good BATNA, and I kind of cooked myself in the process. So how am I going to avoid that in the future? I've got to set myself up so I've got a good BATNA, okay? And then example 5 is personal fucking boundaries. The BATNA can be used for just everyday things with personal boundaries. It's so good. So, for example, a friend is always cancelling plans, or they're always draining you emotionally. So your BATNA could be, let's talk about cancelling plans. And I've got a friend like this. I've used her as an example in this podcast. I'm not going to name her. I actually love her so much. I'm not going to name her, but she... Actually, to be fair, in the last year, she's actually not really cancelled on me. So she's definitely evolving. But she's someone that flakes all the fucking time. She flakes on me all the time. And I used to let it get to me. I'd be like, she's flaked on me again, and I had made plans, and I had this, and I had that. So it'd do my head in, right? It would do my head in. And then I thought, wait a minute, I'm here suffering. I'm the one suffering. Who's suffering? Me? Is she suffering? No, she has no fucking idea. She's just doing her own thing, whatever. Is it my job to teach her? It really doesn't need to be. I could stand her and be like, you have to, because you do teach people how to treat you. But at the same time, you can only influence that. And it's not about, like, this is just her actions here. She's not actually treating me in the moment in that way. They're just her actions that she's doing. And she's always piking. So I thought, okay, what am I going to do? I can either end the friendship and be like, she's disrespecting me, or I could make it work for me. And I wasn't willing to end the friendship because when we do see each other, it is so fucking good. I love her company. She lifts my spirits. We just laugh all the time. I'm like, no, I'm not willing to give this friendship up, even though this fucking annoys me how much she cancels. So how do I work with this? So that way I'm not doing my head in. So then I thought, every time I make a plan with her, I'm going to come up with something really good that I can do on my own instead. So often it would be I'd block out a cafe date alone, and I would be like, I'm going to work on my vision board, or I'm going to be writing this book. And I'd actually almost sometimes be like, I wouldn't mind if she cancelled because I've got these like 2 hours blocked out and I'm really excited to... And then it got to a point where then anytime she'd cancel, I'd be like, oh, babe, all good. Because I'd just be like, yeah, now I can work on this thing I can be writing this thing, or I can be brainstorming. So I've created this epic BATNA, right? And then, it's such a good fallback plan that I don't even blink if she cancels because I was already semi-expecting it, and I've got this really good alternative that I'm quite excited to like dedicate my time to, okay? Another thing is like, if someone is an absolute emotional drain, but you feel like, oh, I need to spend more time with this person because they're like my only friend. I was talking about this in the loneliness episode, about putting too much time into friendships that aren't actually beneficial for you because you're scared to be alone. But it's kind of the same thing of like, do I have to always spend my time with people that emotionally drain me, or can I be doing something in my own time, even if I'm maybe alone, or maybe I see, someone in my family instead, or someone else? That way it's a really good alternative agreement, because if I say to myself, I have no friends, I just have to hang out with these people that make me feel shit about myself every time, then you don't have a good alternative agreement. You feel like they're my only option. I'm stuck with them. You've got to create good alternative agreements. So that way it's like, do I actually need to hang out with this person? Do I need to see this person today when I don't have the emotional bandwidth to put up with them? And then another one would be like a family member that always guilt trips you into getting you to do what they want you to do and to always saying yes, okay? So a good BATNA is, the more independent you are from this family member, the less you need their approval, right? Or their support. For example, if you live at home rent-free, you're going to feel like you have less negotiating power because you rely on them for something that's quite significant. If you had your own financial independence, if you didn't live there rent-free, or if you didn't, whatever it was, then you would have much better negotiating power because they don't hold something over you. And then if you're thinking, well, I'm in a position right now where I have to live there rent-free because of X, Y, Z, then you've got to ask yourself, okay, if I can't pay rent financially, what can I be doing to be repaying my debt that still makes me feel like they don't have leverage over me? So for example, am I a really good handy person? Can I fix things around the place? Can I pay my way through physical, can I be the one that cleans the entire house? Can I do shit around the house so I regain my independence and there isn't that leverage of that they hold over my head? Okay? So you've always got to be thinking, if someone is guilt tripping me, it's often because they think that they have that leverage over me. Why? Is it because they're financially in control? Is it because they give me something that I can't repay? Is it because, what is it? Okay. Once you can determine that, think, how can I pay my dues, or how can I remove myself altogether from this so I'm not financially dependent? My biggest advice is, whenever possible, you make yourself financially dependent as soon as fucking possible. There are going to be people in your life that are so trustworthy where you don't have to exercise that. But in general, you always want the option of financial independence, especially when it comes to relationships. Like, you always want to be able to exercise financial independence. That option should always be there. Whether you need to exercise it or not is a different story. Whether you're listening right now being like, yeah, but I'm in a really healthy relationship and my partner pays for absolutely everything and I'm stay-at-home, partner or stay-at-home parent and whatever, that's fine. But you better have the fucking skills to be able to support yourself financially if you need to. You never want to be in a position where you think, I can't leave because I don't have the skills. Skill up, do what you need to do, so that way if at any point you had to leave, or if at any point something happened and your partner left you, you are not drowning thinking, I can't support myself, I don't have the skill sets to do so. Okay? You should always be able to, because that's your BATNA in life. Okay? So basically, your BATNA is your power. So it helps you walk towards things that you want instead of negotiating things out of fear or out of manipulation. Instead of getting your arm twisted, you're choosing something. You're not ever begging again. You're not hoping. You're not shrinking down. You're not fitting to this mold. You're the one in the driver's seat. You're making good decisions because you've created these really good BATNAs, which requires effort, obviously. So I want to give you, as we wrap up this episode, I'm going to give you a couple of steps on how to improve your BATNA, and also just a couple of journaling prompts for to build up your BATNA. So the first one is obviously know your alternatives. Number one, that's what we've been talking about. Like, what are your real options if this thing doesn't work out or if this thing ends? And if I don't have those real options, what could they be? Look at number two, look at improving those alternatives if you don't feel confident. How could I really improve these alternatives so they're really good options for me? If I feel like I'm in a really unhealthy relationship and it's the last time I'm going to go in and have that conversation to change things and fix things, what could be a really good alternative in the back of my mind so I don't feel desperate to stay? Okay, so for example, you could be like, all right, I'm going to go in one more time and be like, are you willing to change? Are you willing to do these things? Let's have a talk. Things need to change in order for us to be together because I can't handle this anymore. And if you can't meet me in the middle, I have to leave. But then you've got to be willing to leave. Then you think, I've also just looked up this course in Belgium and if you say no, I'm out of here. That's your BATNA, right? Or whatever it is. Or I'm going to I'm not going to put ideas in your head, but you've got to think, what could that be? How can I improve my alternatives so they really look like tempting options for me, so I'm actually quite confident to ask for what I want? Can you grow your skill set and knowledge? Can you improve on your mental health and your daily routines? Can you get better at saving money? Can you get better at networking, your experiences? What is it? Where can you improve so your BATNA gets stronger and stronger and stronger? Number 3, get clear on your breaking point when you walk away. So there comes a time in negotiating where you know that's the walk away point. And the better your BATNA, the lower the threshold of that walk away point is. So have a very clear walk away point, know what that looks like. So you're like, I can negotiate up to here, but no further. Because if I were to negotiate further than this, I'm now worse off than my alternative option. That's the point of a BATNA. If you don't have that alternative option, you're going to keep negotiating down, 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 down. You're going to take like trash from people, okay? And then another thing is, don't necessarily be flaunting your BATNA. You don't need to be flaunting your BATNA, okay? It just calmly exists in your knowledge. You don't need to wave it in people's face. You don't need to say, well, I have this agreement, I have this job offer, just sit comfortably. Ask for what it is that you want. And if they're like, well, we can't do that, just say, well, if you can't do that, I can't accept this role. Then they may or may not call your bluff, and then based on that, you then take action. But you don't have to be saying, this is the alternative that I've got. You don't have to do that, okay? They shouldn't have to know this knowledge to treat you how you need to be treated or to offer you the money that they're able to afford. If they can't afford you, they can't afford you, and that's okay. But it shouldn't be because they're like, oh, fuck, we could have afforded her, but the reason we didn't is because we just didn't want to pay her that much money, okay? Now, journaling prompts to wrap it up. And I'm also going to do a little sheet and have it as a downloadable sheet on my website, www.dyfmpod.com, for you to this is what you're going to do. How to build your BATNA journaling prompts. Number 1, what situation in my life feels like it's hanging in the balance right now? Okay? Could this be a job, a relationship, a decision that I'm scared to make? Where does it feel like it's hanging in the balance? Okay? Number 2, what am I afraid will happen if I walk away? List all the fears, list the irrational fears, everything. Write it down, okay? Get clear on where your head is at, because you need to get all that head noise down onto paper. Number 3, what could I do instead if this deal or relationship or job or whatever it is, house offer, whatever, falls through, okay? List every alternative, even if it's not the best alternative, even if it's a really outrageous alternative, whatever it is. What could I do instead if this thing fell through or if it didn't work out how I wanted it to work out? Number 4, how can I improve or strengthen these alternatives? Like I said earlier about can I network better? Can I have a better skill set? Do I need to educate myself more? And do I need to reel it in and start getting better at saving money? So that way I now have a bit of a stash, and I'm like, I can walk away if I need to, or I can, go and rent a place on my own if I have to. Number 5, what would the most self-trusting version of me do in this situation? If I really trusted myself and if those alternatives were strong, what would I do? What would I be comfortable doing in this situation? If in an alternative world, I backed myself like the people that I look up to and how they back themselves, if I was like that, what would I be doing? So, or think of someone that you deem as quite strong and who really backs themselves even through difficult times, and think, how could I use part of that energy and, use it on myself? And then, number 6, the last one, how have I underestimated my ability to start again? Because you definitely have underestimated your ability to start again. So ask yourself, when are the times that I've said, I could never, I'd die if this happened, I just can't, I don't know if I could, I don't know. And then change that language and say, if this did happen, while it would be fucked, I would survive, and these are the options that I could do. If this didn't work out, I'd be heartbroken, but then these are the things. Because we're really catastrophic in our language of oh my God, I could never. You could. It doesn't mean that you want to, but you can. You're way more resilient than you give yourself credit for. So that's really important to know. So basically, to wrap up, people with a strong BATNA come off as calmer, unbothered, they're more grounded, because they're negotiating because they have a choice. They're not negotiating out of desperation. That's the key to this entire episode. I'm negotiating because I have a choice, not because I'm desperate. Repeat that to yourself like a mantra daily if you need to, okay? You can want something without needing something to feel whole in your life. And that is the sweet spot in your life, okay? It's how you feel value. It's how you feel safe. It's being like, I have got this and I would love to have this. But if I can't have this, I will survive and I've provided this for myself. My alternative is still quite solid, okay? So yeah, that is going to be your power. If you can shift your mindset and start really leaning into your BATNA in every area of your life, you're going to be like, fuck me, I'm in control now, and it feels really good. That is all. So go check out the website www.dyfmpod.com for the worksheet of these prompts and just for like a bit of a rundown on the episode. But I hope you guys enjoyed that. Hope you guys are able to apply that to your lives. Let me know in DMs or in emails or whatever. Let me know how you've applied it and how it's helped you negotiate better deals in your life, because it's something that I didn't create it, by the way. BATNA is just around. You can even look it up on social media. It exists. It's something that's out there. I just wanted to do an episode on it. And how you can apply it to all these different areas in your life. But it's such a good idea and it's such a great thing to know about when we're talking about negotiating things, not just in business, but in life. So that is all for today's episode. Love you guys so much. As always, remember, be kind to yourself, be kind to your brain. Don't take shit from anyone. I nearly choked. Don't take shit from anyone, and especially don't take shit from yourself. Danke.